Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the third in our series of meetings with remarkable Buddhists, engaged Buddhism in Japan. And we've had two speakers so far. Our last speaker was actually also a Rinzai Zen priest. Today's speaker is also Rinzai Zen priest. A little bit different sub-denominations, but the same fundamental tradition. So that's always nice. And we are at the temple of Reverend Fujio Soin, who's of the Rinzai Kenchoji tradition, which is Kenchoji is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Zen temple in Japan, located in Kamakura, not so far from here, actually, where I live. It's about 5 minutes from my house. Yeah, he's in the Rinzai Zen tradition, and we're going to have an interesting interview with him today about suicide prevention, but suicide prevention is sort of part of a much larger sort of set of activities and things. So it's not going to be just suicide prevention. So let's start up. Welcome. Thank you very much for hosting us today.
Thank you very
Reverend
much for
Fujio.
coming.
Reverend Fujio also teaches Zazen, Zen meditation online, and has many foreign students, both online and also he's near a large American military base, and sometimes he has people from the American military coming. So great, it's good to see you again. It's beautiful weather today, spring, yeah. Very nice to come down here from my house. So I think one of the interesting questions is, for people who are not familiar with Japanese Buddhism, they don't know that the Buddhist monks have wives and marry and have children. Mm-hmm. And then their children grow up in the temple and they often become the next abbot. So you were born in this temple, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So what was it like growing up in a Zen temple, as your father is a monk and your grandfather is a monk?
Yeah, yes.
Did that seem strange to you?
I was born here and grown up here, so I don't feel it's strange because I don't know the outside world when I was a child, and especially the kindergarten era. I never I've never seen the outside world. I was grown up here, and my grandfather, real grandfather, was passed away long time ago before I was born here, and my relative grandfather, very old priest.
Right.
My father's relative came here to take care of the temple once. He was born in Meiji era.
Right.
It's about over 100 years ago.
Yeah, Meiji era, late 1800s, yes, early 1900s. Yes.
So that priest was trained by the priests who are born in Edo era.
Right.
It's very strict.
Right.
Condition. So when I was very, very young age, every time I sit straight and bending knees, like a seiza.
Right.
Every time when I eat breakfast and lunch or dinner too, and cannot speak out and just to eat, concentrate on eating. And also before meal, sometimes I need to chant sutra here.
Right.
So, but it's I got accustomed to it.
Right.
Since I realized, realize myself means very, very young stage still. So it's quite natural for me.
So in that way, you were kind of like what we would say you were a samanera, because in like traditional Thailand or Myanmar, many young boys go live in the temple as a young child. Samanera, they're like a junior monk. So you were a samanera, but it was a family temple samanera.
But however, I noticed I'm strange when I was elementary school students. when I visit my friend's house and
Right.
eat dinner over there or play over there, the customs quite different.
Right,
from
right, 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 right.
They talk and eat
Right.
and watching TV sometimes, and no praying.
Right.
Actually, at that time, still in Japan, many houses have the Buddha altars
Right.
inside the house, and also the shrines, small
Right.
shrine at the each house. So before meal, sometimes
spirit
there,
shrine,
yeah, many people before meal, sometimes they put some offering to the Buddhist altar or the shrines. However, not so strict way. So I was shocked, and I'd like to be like
yeah.
my friends.
I don't think all young sons of priests are raised so strictly. I think some temple families are rather relaxed, but others I think are also strict too. So it's kind of interesting because in some ways the sons of priests are as cultivated or more cultivated than a traditional monk who didn't grow up in a temple and then became a monk later.
Yeah, one reason I was so strict was the person who, the old priest here is not my real grandfather.
Right.
So I guess he tried to make me to be a monk.
A real
priest,
monk, yes,
real monk,
he wanted you to be a monk.
Instead of the real grandfather.
Right.
At this time, my father was a teacher, school teacher, from early morning to late night. His school, he teach at the Tokyo school, school in Tokyo.
Right.
So daytime, only the grandfather is here.
Right.
So I imagine
you're living in a temple.
Yeah,
you're living in a monastery.
Yeah. So yeah.
So the Fujio family is just in this temple, just starting with your father?
No.
How many generations back?
I guess I am the fourth generation.
Fourth generation, yeah. So in Japanese history, many of the temples did not become like blood successor until the Meiji period, when monks really started openly marry. Before that, it's a normal monk system, especially in Rinzai.
Fujio family, actually the Zen temple, Rinzai school, priests single, never married in Edo era.
Right.
And the fourth generation,
not like Pure Land.
Yeah. And the fourth generation before, the first Fujio monk came from the Jodo Shinshu temple in Yokosuka Miura Peninsula.
Oh, that's interesting. So
he was born in the Jodo Shinshu temple in Edo, or maybe around the end of the.
He must have had shock to get trained in Rinzai Zen.
And he studied at the school in Kamakura.
I see.
And he was interested in the Zen temple.
I see.
His school was near the Kenchoji temple.
Oh, I see.
So he entered the monastery.
Interesting.
Then he became actually he has many brothers and sisters. So his eldest brother take over the temple, the Jodo Shinshu temple. So my ancestor think he would like to go out, and in my imagination, as long as I imagine, he don't like the temple life, so he go outside, but still he interested in the temple life, and so enter the Zen school or Zen monastery. So he would like to find out the other temple, like his family temple. So he maybe it's accidentally enter the Zen temple.
I think it's an accident. I mean, for those of you who don't know, the Jodo Shin tradition is the most laicized form of traditional Japanese Buddhism. And their teaching is that we are in this kind of end of the Buddha era, and we can't practice meditation or traditional monastic sila. So they just chant Amida's name, and they really don't have any training. So to go to Rinzai is the most extreme on the opposite end. It's the most hard training school. So that's a Big
Yeah.
switch.
Yeah, that's why he would like to switch to the
Oh, I see.
opposite
Oh,
side.
I was like, I want real Buddhism to go meditate. And
Yeah.
everything. Okay, interesting. So, but as I understand, knowing you for a while, you kind of went on a fairly typical route for a young priest. You went to regular university and studied like many Buddhist priests do. And then what often happens in Japan is, the young priest is 22, his father's still not very old. So the father is still the abbot of the temple. So what often happens is the son is sort of free to go off into the world and do something different. And then they don't have to become the abbot until their father gets too old. So you went out into the world and you entered the business world. You went into banking.
Yes.
Again, it may be difficult for people outside of Japanese Buddhism to understand. What led you from growing up in this temple, kind of strict Rinzai Zen, to go into banking?
Well, actually, at this time, when I was school days or university days, it's about over maybe 40 years ago. This temple is very small. The danka is not so many.
The parishioners, yeah.
And my father and mother was teaching at the school. Both of them are the teacher of the elementary school. Then so they know the outside world, of course, the outside temple. And so they never be against to my decision to go outside temple. And I myself would like to know about the world, outside temple world.
Didn't your father encourage you, or your grandfather encourage you a little bit?
Not encourage, but not deny.
Nice.
Or no, just send me to go outside. And at this time, in 1980, Japanese companies, most of the Japanese companies try to go out to the overseas. And
the golden era of Japanese business.
Yes. So I entered the bank, and the bank also expand their overseas networks and overseas business and investment in various countries. So I have a chance to go out to the States and the Asian countries. About 13 years ago, 13 years totally.
So you were in New York, Singapore, and
Thailand.
And you were in Thailand at a very critical time during the Asian economic crisis.
Yes.
1998, when there was a lot of problems. What are some of the experiences you had working as a banker that have helped you come back to this work you're doing now? You're kind of a counselor. You support people who are depressed, and anything that you learned in that time?
Well, actually, how people accumulate the stress to become depression and try to feel like suicide. So the human nature to actually there is as you know that there are three basic natures. One is nature or the instinct to survive.
Survival instinct, yeah.
Another one is some wants to be famous or want to have a lot of money or such. Five senses,
yes.
Greed or something. Another one is destroying something.
Okay, right. So that's anger, right?
Yeah, anger. So
greed, anger, delusion.
Sandoku. So sometimes Japanese people try to take responsibility by committing suicide to disappear from the companies. I thought such tendency to think like that way is very much higher than Western people. And Asian people, I think that almost similar tendency to think such
sacrifice for the community,
or some others. So I experienced Western style in the business in the States and Europe and also Asia. And so I experienced quite a lot of case to the staffs to become a depression or sometimes their emotion is collapsed or
out of balance.
Out of balance, yeah. So such case I encountered many times. So such experience helped me to do these activities now as a priest.
To understand people better.
Understand people. I myself in Thailand, I encountered turmoil of the economy and all the deposit from the customers is freezed by the IMF, International Monetary Fund. However, the International Monetary Fund guarantee the amount of money which is deposited, freezed but guaranteed. So its frozen period is 5 years. But it's very long for each company.
Yes, 5 years is an eternity for a businessman. Yes.
So many people think to additional investment from overseas or the headquarters. But in my experience, Japanese companies or the Japanese banks or the any Japanese companies start from the beginning. I mean, the very lower level, clerk level to study and experience a lot of things. So I could create one financial tool or instrument to the purchase or the buy and sell of the rights. Rights to not the money or not the foreign exchange, but the rights to withdraw the deposit. It is frozen, but 5 years later it will be frozen. So that rights to discount. Actually, there's no paper. However, the rights itself is a concept. However, we can still buy and sell, and discount the interest. So I create such instrument too. So I release all the frozen deposit to return to the many Japanese companies, foreign companies. So we can survive. So, but during the process to frozen deposit to the release, it's very hard time. My hair was become gray. At this time, I have a hair.
You had hair,
My hair is become gray. And gradually,
you started to become losing your hair.
That one is kind of a good experience for me.
I see.
How the stress affect the physical. Physically degrade the body.
And you had a close friend who ended up killing himself at this time.
Yes, my junior at the high school days.
Your high school.
I belonged to the track and field club. He was when I was a high school student. He was junior high school student.
I see.
My school was 6 years from junior to high school, and we practiced on the same ground, and we spent the youth in the same age, certain time in the school days. So I was shocked, and
he worked for a different Japanese bank in Thailand.
In Thailand,
and the stress was too much.
At this time, many Japanese businessmen stationed in Thailand became the depression, and some of them suicide, and some of them suicide but survived. So it's a very like a long time. In the United States, the financial crisis.
Call it Black Friday.
Black Friday.
People jumping out of windows.
Same.
My great-grandfather on both sides and my stepfather's father all committed suicide in 1929.
Oh, I see.
They were all businessmen,
see.
bankers. So yeah.
I see. I experienced one day suddenly all the deposit was frozen.
Yeah.
We can do anything.
Right.
No room for negotiation.
Right.
Just to follow.
Right.
So if once the money is billions of dollars,
right,
the person cannot
panic,
take
shock.
responsibility. Yeah, shocked. Yeah, feel like dying,
right,
or disappearing from the world. So
right, right.
I understand actually not only Japanese businessmen but also other international businessmen feel such feel such way.
Do you feel like any of your training, the way that you were raised in the temple here, did that help you at all during this time? Or you?
I'm not sure.
Because you're here, you didn't commit suicide, you survived it.
It's due to the life in the temple, or my character, nature character, or experience until that time through school days and the business days for many overseas. I'm not sure, but one thing is support me is the meditation. I believe so.
So you were practicing meditation at that time as a businessman?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
I would think that that's big.
Yeah, my teacher, as I told you, who were born in Meiji era and trained by the Edo era priest, he was strict, so I was forced to practice everything.
But you continued to practice as an adult.
Sometimes
not every day, but you had
every day. Because child days I must do every day.
Wow.
So I don't like.
Yeah, you don't want to do it. I hate meditation.
But I get accustomed to meditate at the time, and also chanting sutra at the time. But of course, in my senior childhood days, I never do.
Right. But you had the foundation.
Yeah, foundation. Yeah.
So you had a sense of when everyone is panicking during this financial crisis, you had a little bit of, as we say, mindfulness to go.
Oh, yes.
Hold on. Let's not panic.
Yeah. Observing myself.
Right.
So I, thanks to the older priest, instead of replacing the grandfather, he was, and he gave me the seat of the priest beside me, and
seat of the monk.
Seat of monk, yeah, and but the high school days or university days and the bankers days is still seat.
Yeah, it's still there.
But the such economic turmoil or the like a Black Monday in Thailand, the some small sprout coming out, and I remind, I practiced zazen when I was a child. So actually, I couldn't sleep every day at the time. So I tried the zazen before bed. So, and I release all the tension. So I can keep my mental health. Although my hair gray and disappear, however, still mentally conditioned and not too bad. Of course, it's bad, but not too bad to become feel like suicide.
So 1998 is also, it's the year that the Japanese suicide rate jumps and starts going up towards over 30,000 a year.
Yes.
And then it was been like that, for 14, 15 years in a row. So, but you, your father got old, a little bit sick, and then you had to come back to the temple. What year did you come back to the temple?
What year?
What year, you quit your banking job.
Yes, about more than 25 years ago. So means this year is 2020 minus 20.
Minus 25? 2020, that's 1997, but that doesn't make sense because
Yeah,
when you were in Thailand during the
yes, yes,
1998
yes.
crisis,
19.
how many years after the Thai
I
crisis?
remember 2000.
2000, okay,
Before, just before 2000,
I see,
maybe end of 98 or 99.
I see,
I released all the deposits in
Right,
Thailand,
right.
and our bank survived,
right,
and many customers survived
right,
after frozen deposit is released.
right,
Then I can come back.
I see.
Then
So right
I-
after
I-
the crisis,
yeah,
right after the crisis, I see,
And at this time, my father became
Right.
sick, so
Right.
I decided to.
kind of good time you could get out of that work. So you went back and you had to do your full monastic training to finish up. How long was that training?
It's about 2 years.
About 2 years, I see. So did your hair didn't come back?
No.
Well, you had to shave it off anyway.
Yeah.
So, but did you feel that your body could recover?
Oh yes. I lose my weight
Right.
during the monastery life.
Right.
Become very healthy.
I see. Good. And you're also a kind of a Tai Chi master, and you teach Tai Chi. When did you start learning that?
Well, Tai Chi, I studied in Japan when I was 20s,
I see.
and I continued
As a banker,
as
and
a
you still
banker
had
in
time.
Singapore
Right.
too. Singapore, there was a
Mm.
great Chinese
Yeah.
master of
Many
Tai
good
Chi.
teachers there,
I
yeah.
learned from him
Right.
and his family, and so still I'm continue
Right.
teaching and learning
Right.
still.
Now, when I've learned some Tai Chi from you, you haven't really said so much Tai Chi, you've incorporated it in with your Zen, the moving Zen. In the training temple, do they have moving Zen? Did they do that, or is that you putting it
My
together?
monastery, no,
Right,
but some monastery, yes,
yes, I see.
because my master of the Tai Chi in
Right.
Japan,
Right.
Yang Min-chi,
Right.
he is a friend of Taitsu Kono.
Right.
He was-
Kono Taitsu,
Kono
yes,
Taitsu,
oh,
yes.
great, yes.
And,
Our great Rinzai Myoshinji
Yeah,
monk who appears often in our book about war responsibility and nuclear energy. So he appears a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
he was before he became the chief abbot of the Myoshinji.
Right. Rinzai Myoshinji order.
And
Yes.
he was a master of some big temple and monastery.
Right.
At this time, he teach Tai Chi for the disciples.
Kono
and-
Taitsu is a Tai Chi master as well. Wow.
And
Impressive.
Master Kono invite the same master, the
Right.
Yang Min-chi,
Right.
to the monastery once a month to
Right.
teach the disciples.
I see.
together. So that monastery, they graduated from the monastery.
Right.
Most of them become some degree of the Tai Chi too.
I see. So but you didn't go to that monastery, right?
not that.
But he
no.
was your teacher, that Tai Chi teacher.
Mhm.
So he's familiar with blending Zen and
Yeah,
Tai Chi
yeah,
together. Oh, very good.
Actually,
Interesting.
it's quite similar.
Right,
Sitting meditation, sit still.
Right.
The Tai Chi is the moving.
right,
So it's we feel the core
Right,
tandem.
right.
Tai Chi is the sitting is also we feel the
right. The
Tandem.
tanden,
yeah.
yeah.
And Tai Chi is also feel move from the Tai Chi core
tandem.
of the body
Core.
tandem. The
It's just below the belly button, about
Yes.
like 3 fingers. Yeah.
yes. Beginners try to move,
Their
By
arms.
arms.
Right,
but after 3 to 5 years later,
Yeah.
move from the tandem.
right. The tanden.
And
Tantian.
after practicing 10 years or over 10 years,
Yeah.
tandem is controlled by the breathing.
Right,
Breathe in and tandem move the body. And
Right.
breathe out, tandem move the
right.
body.
Uh,
So after 20 years later, I practice actually more than 30 years.
Right.
Feel almost synchronizing the breathing and moving,
mm,
and all of the movement and breathing is controlled by the
Right.
core of the body or tandem. it takes about more than 20 years for me to understand such through Tai Chi and
Right.
Zazen.
My basic understanding of the history of Rinzai, going back to China, is you have Bodhidharma, who's the patriarch of basically all Zen, but he also founded Shaolin Monastery, which is the monastery of martial arts. So Zen and Tai Chi and this kind of Chinese martial arts are together from the very beginning.
I believe so.
Right.
I believe so.
Right.
And also, like Rinzai is from the ancient China,
Right.
Rinzai denomination. Then the many, especially like Kamakura Church,
Right.
In the Kamakura era, many Chinese monks come
Chinese
from
masters,
the
yes.
mainland,
Right.
and also Japanese monks go to mainland China,
Right. Right.
and there are international exchange over there. At this time, according to the record, Chinese and Japanese language, both language, is the official language, are the official language in Kenchurch inside. So the many monks from China,
Right.
I guess they teach or practice Tai Chi in Kenchurch long time ago, almost 800 years ago. And many Japanese monks go to China. They learn Tai Chi without knowing the temple doing teaching Tai Chi also.
Right.
Go and practice. I guess so.
Okay. So let's keep moving on. So you came back here. You resigned from your business life. You became a full-time abbot here. How did you get involved with? I mean, you're known as someone who works on suicide prevention, but how did you come to work with such people who were depressed? You're here in the temple. They came to you?
Oh, yes. Actually, temple, many people who has the feeling of depressed or suffering, feel sad or sometimes feel angry to someone or something, come to temple and talk with my father at this time, or talk with me, and certain percentage of such person, the visitors, have the feeling of suicide. So gradually, I try to.
So this temple, it was common for people to come to this temple who had some problems to talk.
Yes, because my father was a teacher when he was young.
Right.
So many students, ex-students, came to my father's place.
I see. And he kind of got a reputation as a nice counselor, someone you can go talk to.
And also my uncle, and was a psychiatrist. He was a famous Otoya Miyagi. He was the specialist of the Freud. And he teach at the Tokyo Institute of Technology. And his students or the came to study Zen. So some of them are the therapists or counselors.
I see.
And maybe they introduce my father.
It's interesting because also in this book I explain the common situation of so many people have moved into the city in the post-war era in Japan. They lose contact with the temple, they lose contact with the priests. So I think in many Buddhist countries, people go to the monk for advice, but that has really been lost in Japan. And now many urban Japanese, they never think to go to the temple. But you're still a little bit, I wouldn't say this is the countryside, but we're definitely out of the big city, and it's still more local. So
local cities,
you haven't lost the connection with your community here.
but still a local society has still have the community, local communities.
Right.
And my father organized a small study, I should say, study
group?
not school, but the free school.
Study group, yeah.
Yeah, my father was, and my mother was a teacher, and they after quitting their teacher's job, they teach some studies like mathematics or some Japanese literature or something here in the temple, especially for the people who have one single mother or single father.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The reason why is that my father was a single mother family member. My grandfather or his father was passed away very early stage.
Wow.
That's why he tried to teach the people, children who
With
lost
single
their
parents.
single.
And you still have that kind of thing going?
No, I have no ability to teach, not to teach it.
Because now this is a big issue. Especially we like the last session when we were speaking with the young Rinzai priest, Reverend Noda, who works on child poverty and child hunger, and so many of these children are from single family. Not so much their parent died, but they got divorced. So you already had this kind of tradition here. People came to the temple, but
I was a single child here.
Right.
So every time after the strict old priest passed away, I feel very free to eating and watching TV.
Right, yeah.
And eating, because I'm an only child, I'm eating everything.
Right.
However, at the summertime, summer vacation and school holidays, like a spring vacation, summer vacation, winter vacation, many children come here and we eat together at lunchtime. I cannot eat on my own pace.
Right.
If so, nothing remains. So I have a chance to. I had a chance to eat with many people, many students in this temple.
Well, you had to be very disciplined in the Rinzai temple. They bring out just a little bowl of rice, and you have to eat it in 5 minutes, and you're done.
Yeah. Actually, it's a very young time.
Oh, this is in your young time. I see.
Not so young days, not so strict.
So you came back here, but you're the new priest, so people are coming to see you. How do they trust you? You're too young, and you're not your father is the master. And why do they trust you?
I was born here.
Right.
I was a very honest student here, and many people in this area know me since I was a child.
I see.
I'm very eager to study or honest.
Right.
It's a typical temple
boy.
Everybody here in this town.
So they were kind of happy that you came back.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So you started working with various people that came in, and sometimes very, very unbalanced.
The people came here.
Yeah. Ill people who were very deep in depression, suicidal, something. How do you connect with such a person? They may be very difficult to connect with.
Just to listen to their voices from the heart, bottom of the heart.
But you told me sometimes they don't talk. Or maybe their parent brought them in and they don't want to talk.
Yeah, sometimes their parents or brother or sisters take them to bring the person to see me. I just sit and try to listen to the person, and tuning the radio. Nowadays, just to switch the button to tuning. However, in my childhood, listen to the radio. Sometimes TV too needs to tune it. Yes. Tune. And so I try to listen and to the voices of the person in front of me, just going down the staircase, going down. If the level of the mental level is around for mental level for the daily life, normal life is around here.
Right.
Their mental level is 0, 0 or minus degrees.
Right.
So I try to go down,
Right.
just a step down to their level, like a tuning the radio.
Right.
So I sometimes talk about you came here today. How do you feel, or just are you thirsty, or
Right.
are you do you feel cold or
Right.
hot? I understand.
Instead of like, please tell me your problem.
Before
Right.
that. Before such question, I switch off, turn off all everything. Just switch on the light.
Right. No heater, no air conditioner.
Most of them came at night time.
Right.
So in winter, very cold,
Right.
like a temple.
Right.
And summer is very hot. So I already know they feel hot. They feel
cold. Right.
You cold? I try to choose the question. The person can say yes. So, do you feel cold? Do you feel hot? And yes, I will. Okay, I switch on. And how about drink this very hot to warm you up? Hot tea to warm you up. Thank you. Yes. Today is very hot, so please drink this cold water and to cool down. Thank you. Yes, I drink so such way. So try to going down the staircase to try to meet with the person. The place I try to reach the place where they are in.
I see.
So means that tuning is just connected.
Right.
So understand the person's face can a little bit late.
The color comes back because they're very pale. Right.
Pale. However, it's become the recover or
how long does that take?
It depends. Sometimes earliest case is less than 1 hour.
Right.
Maybe 30 to 40 minutes.
Right.
But sometimes over 2 hours.
Wow.
It takes a long time.
2 hours.
Sometimes the person come, they lose the words.
Right.
After losing the words, 1 month or 2 months, it's difficult to recover soon. It takes double time, maybe two times. Maybe the person lost one month, maybe needs to 2 months to recover. But a few days, just losing the words and come here.
Right.
It's still it's like a medical emergency.
Right.
Can recover.
Right.
Have the possibility to recover soon.
Right.
After talking.
Right.
And try to contact and choose the question. Say just yes or just like nothing.
Right.
So 2 hours or 3 hours later, recover the voice. So it takes about over 2 hours, long time.
And you don't charge any money for this?
No charge.
So that's interesting. There are two thoughts there, because one is, in the post-war era, the Japanese Buddhist priest has a bad reputation for overcharging for funerals. But among these priests who are doing this counseling work, they never charge any money for it. So it's almost like a balancing out. I think the other thing that's really remarkable is when you see a professional counselor, you have to set up a specific time, and you have a half hour, and you pay for that. And then once the time is over, it's over. And then the doctor has to move on to the next client, or his day is over, is finished. So maybe you're at a critical moment at the 1 hour mark, but you have to finish anyway, because, but with you, it just keeps going until whenever it feels good to end.
First, I'd like to answer 2 points.
Yes.
First point is rumor, such bad priests or monks. Yes, such monks, there are many such monks. However, even a few, but still good monks to take time with the person suffering,
Right.
Is existing.
Right. In our book, many monks in the book, we're showing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And the second one is the charging or takes time.
Right.
I don't deny the counselors or therapists because they need to protect themselves. Actually, the listening to the such voices from the heart is very tough, and sometimes feel compassionate, and such compassion, over compassion, hurt the person, the therapist by themselves. So limit the time is sometimes I guess necessary.
But I think the problem is it's just that they move on to the next patient.
Yeah, that is.
I think more it's a problem, a structural violence of they have to make a living to pay their bills and their mortgage and their children's school. So they have to have 8 patients a day to do that. I think that's a problem. But as you were saying, that protecting yourself or not protecting yourself, do you feel, you were talking about, the Zazen and also the Tai Chi practice, you learn how to center your energy here in the tanden. Do you feel like you're able to tune yourself through here? Where do you tune? You're tuning from here, you're tuning from here, you're tuning from
here. I guess so. Well, when I was a banker states, we as a person who responsible of the branches or the department, sometimes we need to meet with the gangsters or some
unsavory business people.
Yeah. So at this time we have such special training or to contact with such persons.
Oh, really? Wow. Special training in the banks.
Anti-social people.
Right.
Yeah. We will learn to tightening the belt.
Right.
Keep our tande or the hara stable or the perfect before talking, before listening. And I attend such training seminar at the back, quite similar to the Zen way, which I learned long time ago.
Right.
Then
this is
back to the your question. Yes, same here. Here is important.
Well, I think
my posture before talking or before listening, posture is very important.
Right.
If I listen to this way or like this way, no good.
Yeah.
The posture is important. The impression, the conversation or dialogue is not built up by the words themselves.
Right.
Words is maybe 20%, 30%. Our attitude and the postures and tone of the voice or the body language, that is 70% or 80%. I guess the priest especially, if I wear today somewhere, it's a very casual wear to do works. Still feel like wearing the kesa or official clothes to keep.
You still look, like you're in robes, like you're.
Thank you. Try to be a monk or try to be a priest to follow the to get the trust from the person first.
So it seems to me, so when you're meditating and of course, when you're meditating, some disturbances come up. I mean, part of at least Buddhist meditation, not all forms of Buddhist, not all forms of meditation, but my understanding, Buddhist meditation is about rooting out your afflictions, your bono. So in order to do that, you need to have a good posture. You need to have good breathing, and you need to cultivate this presence in your tanden. And from that, you're able to work on whatever anxiety or neurosis you have. So it seems to be natural that if you're dealing with someone else's problems, you have to do the same thing. Instead of practicing meditation for yourself, it's like a interrelational meditation.
Same. The actually dialogue itself also kind of meditation.
Right.
Talking meditation or listening meditation.
Listening meditation.
Yeah. And good posture, keep the breathing deep and high quality.
Right.
If my shoulder come in front, bending over or back, the lungs are shrinked, maybe cannot inflate and deflate properly. So the breathing become very shallow and rough.
Right.
So I guess the
mind becomes shallow and rough.
brain have the shortage of the oxygen.
Right.
No blood, not good blood circulation, lymph circulation, lymph flow all over the body. So first needs to keep the good posture. Then I take the good enough oxygen to circulate the blood whole body and lymph flows. So then I can keep listening long time. I don't become tired.
Right.
I can keep the same condition.
Right.
To ready to listen.
Right. Even to a difficult situation.
Like a marathon run.
Right. Right. But it's almost, it's kind of interesting when you think of a kind of in some ways, two people aren't two people. In some ways, when they come together, they make sort of one organism. So it's almost like you're like a pacemaker, or you're providing meditation for someone who cannot meditate, so that they can then sort of build themselves up to then do it on their own, right? So after a while, so you don't teach meditation to someone like this who's very depressed?
No, I don't teach at the first contact, especially. I don't.
But eventually you may teach.
Yes. Sometimes it's a very light depression level.
Right.
Sometimes we practice together, but really deep depression.
Right.
Before practicing meditation or Zen sitting, needs to take rest to lie down the body.
Right.
So go back and eat a proper nutrition and take rest is necessary. First, I try the person to talk out. Not good word, vomit out.
Right. Throw up there. Yes.
Detox or all the poisonous feelings.
Right. I see. Yeah, detox. So the next question, I think, many people living outside of Japan have this image of Japan it's a wonderful place. There's so many people who want to come visit here, and there's manga and beautiful temples, and everything's neat, and it's not dangerous, and nobody has guns, and there are 30,000 people killing themselves every year. Why are people so unhappy in Japan? It seems like a very nice place. Why are there so many unhappy and depressed people?
I think it depends on the person's situation. Like Japan is a society to cooperate each other long through the long histories. But nowadays, most of the especially the business field, or sometimes academic field too, compete with the Western style. So we were grown up the atmosphere of like a judo or a sumo, but we need to go up to the ring, professional wrestling ring, or boxing rings. The rule is different. Right. So we need to fight on the ring, not the tatami mat. Right. So
you've been trained in sumo, but now you're in boxing.
So we don't over-express ourselves inside the Japanese campus, but outside Japan, we need to over-express sometimes. But it's a Japanese mentality, not so.
You think it's over-expressing? For us, it's just normal.
So the change the rule is different,
Right.
and especially the many international corporations
Right.
to compete with Fujitsu or
Right.
NEC, like computer corporation, needs to compete with IBM or Microsoft in Western way.
Right.
So the rule is different, and the place, ring and the tatami mat is different. So the maybe sometimes we try to battle by the sword, but they have the machine gun.
They have the gun, yeah. It's like
so the rule or the such atmosphere quite different.
Right.
So I think it's stressful. The Japanese educational system is focused on put an importance on the compassionate with others,
right,
and think about others
right,
before doing
right,
themselves. And at the school, try to clean up after school
right,
their
right.
classrooms, and try to do the servant for the lunchtime.
Right,
do you know?
right. Working in the
I
cafeteria.
think outside Japan, maybe
Not so common for
not so
students to
common.
work in the cafeteria. Yeah.
Different
Right.
role
Right.
is different. Person who has a role,
Right.
everyone do their own duty.
Well,
Is the outside rule.
this
Am I correct?
explains people who work in international business, but there's so many people here in Japan who aren't in international business, who are depressed, killing them, housewives, elderly people, young people, people who have no contact with international business, and they're
Actually,
very depressed
yeah.
too, and they're killing themselves too.
The Japanese suicide is before COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
70% is the male.
Right.
And most of them are senior age,
Right.
not senior, but the middle to senior.
Middle age, yeah, middle age businessmen.
So management level,
Right.
Manager or senior manager or directors. So then most of them belong to the such companies
Right.
who have contact with the international field. Especially main business in Japan is exporting or the
Right.
international corporations.
Right.
Of course, there's domestic corporations, workers in the domestic corporations still suicide themselves. However, as long as I know as long as I see the person who are doing business overseas has more possibility to have a stress,
Right.
and tendency to depressed outside the world. I guess like American people or European people, Asian people too come to Japan, they feel stress. Am I correct?
Yeah, they feel stressed because they don't know how to communicate with others and make a connection.
Yeah, same way Japanese people
Right.
Feel more strongly to express themselves, express ourselves to try to compete with the rival companies and to make the partners understood.
Well, one of the things we had talked about before, and I've also talked with other people, is this big moment in like 1998, like late 1990s, when Japan changed its business model because of the influence of European and American neoliberalism.
Yeah.
So, but you can't change the Japanese culture overnight. So then what was happening in the workplace is this mix, like kind of part Japanese, where you should be sacrificing for the group, but then also like jiko sekinen, you should be responsible and active and individualistic. So doing both at the same time is very difficult, because you should be competing for your own advancement, but you should sacrifice for the group, and it's almost like your identity gets ripped apart. You can't do both.
Yeah, at this time, especially the middle class management and also the senior management too, they suffer a lot. Before that before that year, seniority system and lifetime employment is the main two main pole of the Japanese society or Japanese companies or corporations. However, it's already collapsed, and suddenly, so the middle management, the senior management level, they have long experience in such system, but suddenly disappears.
Right.
They go up to the staircase ladder, and ladder disappear.
Right.
Just stay over there. So
Right.
feel unbalanced.
Right.
So that time, I guess one of the big reason for the increase of the suicide ratio at that time.
But you have some young people who come here. What is their problem usually? Young people.
Young people, especially this COVID-19.
Before COVID.
Mm.
Before COVID, you have young people. What is their problem before COVID? Because many people understand the problem of COVID. Before COVID.
Before COVID, I think bullying itself is everywhere in the world. But
it's especially particular here, I think.
Japan?
Yes.
Already.
It's everywhere in the world, but it's when I came to Japan, one of the first things I learned that bullying was very bad in the junior high school. But then we started to do this research project, and then we started to talk with like monks who went into the training temple, like even like the Soto Zen monk. They said the terrible bullying.
Yeah.
And then we talked to people like Reverend Fujisawa who work in the company. He said, "Oh, there's bullying in the company." It's like, wow, there's bullying everywhere. So anyway, it seems to be many foreigners who come to Japan are always surprised at how well behaved, or we say in English, self-regulated Japanese are. We don't need the police. We don't need people saying anything. They just behave properly. And I think that's because of the culture of like, if I start to behave differently, somebody might bully me. So I'm just, it seems to start early. People are afraid to act different because then if they act different, they might get bullied. So just try to be as normal as possible. But in America, it's the opposite. We all want to be like, no, I'm different. Look at me, I'm different. It's like that, almost the complete opposite.
Well, I think the Japanese educational system try to be the person adopting or the group or society, not to be outstanding.
Right. Not to be outstanding.
Such system is quite bad in Japan. Some schools to avoid, especially the private schools, try to teach the pupils or students to expand their each individual abilities. Some schools ask the pupils or students to do the baseball or basketball or studies, or divided some groups or some of them the music or some artistic field. So one of the high school nearby, this temple, they are doing such way. There's several different classes like universities or colleges, but most of the Japanese companies we do in the same classroom, same students all together long time. And some of them are not like mathematics, some of them not like literature, but still they are doing together. So many people feel, some of them can get accustomed to all the like a generalist, everything they can do everything. But some of them is not good. Don't try. But if the person try to go out, maybe feedback or such pressure without verbal, some invisible pressure is damaging or hurting the persons.
Right.
It's not a real bullying, but feel bullying.
Yeah. It's a
Not
passive aggressive kind of,
not
not
only
direct,
the real
but
bullying,
a
but
pressure.
also some invisible bullying.
Right. Yeah.
Is still existing.
Yeah. In America, sometimes we call it peer pressure, which is to be like, don't be different. Just be like everyone else, you know.
I see.
Or usually it's the opposite kind of thing. It's like, oh, the other boys are doing bad things, so I didn't want to do the bad thing, but everyone's doing the bad thing, so I should join them. Like, I don't want to drink and be crazy, but everyone else is drinking and being crazy, so I have to do like that.
Many Japanese kids or pupils are very honest and very obedient. So try to make themselves to adjust to the groups.
Right.
Actually, I don't like this group. Actually, I don't like this classrooms teacher, but still endure and try to adjust by myself. And
then eventually they may break.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. And
so they don't want to go to school, or they become suicidal or something.
Yeah, sometimes nowadays many schools has the divided to classroom making. As I told you, that some classroom is don't study less, but do some more sports or do some art work, or
based on their kind of interest and ability. So you've been working in a larger group of priests doing suicide prevention, and one of the things very recently from COVID is you just told me this year you started a activity among your priests to reach out and try to get closer to young people.
Oh yes,
can you tell us about that?
Since last November, October.
Yeah.
First one is September, but officially start from since October, last October.
Can you tell us more?
Well, that one is online talk using the Zoom system, and we have participants from various ages, and the monks listen to their stories.
Is it like a group counseling kind of group activity or individual?
Similar. Or like a grief share meeting.
Grief share.
But not grief. They are complaint share.
They're monk.
Yes. Monk listen.
Their complaints. It's a kind of a play on words in Japanese. The word monku would mean to complain in Japanese.
Monk of the family, monk of the school, monk of the study.
Teenagers have a lot of monku.
So, but the teenagers has no place to express their monks. Monk means this monk is.
They want to their monk to the monk.
Monk to the monk. So the online safe place. Safety place.
That's very important,
to complain, to express all the monks, all the complaints. So we just listen. Once, actually, the real situation. First, the person, newcomers, hesitates to talk. But others start talking. Maybe they feel sympathized or start talking. So young people is once they start talking, there's a lot of things to like a small hole on a giant dam. The water come out and break. Same things. Actually, they would like to talk. However, there's no one near here, near the person, and no place of the safety.
Well, that's often the thing. They may have people they like or they want to talk to, but they feel like if they tell them, then it just comes back around, and then we heard that you said that, and it's like no one who is confidential they can speak to. So, but it's interesting. We don't think of young people having much of a connection with Buddhist priests. and many of them don't. So how do you make the connection? How do you meet these young people?
Well, we expand the information of the SNS, social network system, and also many monks share the posting of the Facebook or Twitters or some others, and gradually expanded. So, but not so many. We cannot catch the students or young people who don't using the SNS.
Right. There are not many young people who don't use social media. That's interesting. Yeah, I'd like to ask you one more point. You're unusual, but maybe getting less unusual in that you have been working with your local city hall as what's called a gatekeeper, which is helping the city hall act as a kind of a resource person. There are people who have mental problems or various kinds of problems, and they come to you or someone who's a gatekeeper, and you help them find the right kind of help. Because I remember many videos and interviews I've seen with Buddhist priests, it's like, if you have a financial problem, don't kill yourself. We can work out your financial problem. We can find the right person for you. So, but there's also one of the themes that comes out in the book, and it's a constant theme, is in the post-war period, because the religion was so tied up with the war, people really lost trust in religion. So, and then they put in the Constitution, separation of church and state. So the idea of separation of church and state was given by the American constitutional writers, but Japan is much more extreme than America in separation of church and state. So it's very funny. I'm like, it's not supposed to be this separate. So the Buddhist priest is not supposed to be involved in anything that is publicly funded. So like a really classic example is many hospitals around the world have a religious person called a chaplain in the hospital to offer a kind of spiritual care, but that's not allowed in Japanese hospital because it's a public hospital, so no religious person. So when I first heard you, I was like, but you're working as a Buddhist priest in a city hall. That's church and state coming together. So do you find it like, do you find any problems doing this work? People who are like, why are you here, Buddhist monk? Please get out of here.
No problem.
Why no problem?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I'm engaging in the suicide issues or mental matters since I came back to the temple more than 20 years ago. And I work, and I was born here and grown up here, and many friends work for the city hall, and that is also helpful for me. And but
many non-Buddhist friends, just regular
non-Buddhist friends. And the most important thing is I was engaged in the suicide issue. This the priest network of confronting suicide has a history of 16 years. Before that, I do by myself at the temple.
Here at the temple,
I welcome such person suffering, and so it has a long history. Then the people living near here, most of them knows about me, and also I'm a member of the like a life link group.
It's a life link.
Life link and the grief support link. Grief support link is a part of the life link.
And these are non-profit organizations, NPOs, civil society.
I am a member. It's not the priest groups.
Right.
So the city hall members knows me is that I'm a member of such groups. Not only the priest groups, but also the
civil society groups.
So one day I was invited to some meeting, and then I was gradually involved in the suicide issue in this city. and also and gradually involved in the confronting committee composed of the medical field people and educational field group and police department and some others. And then I'm in charge of the grief share meeting for the bereaved who lost the loved one by suicide. And also I was invited to teach the training of the gatekeepers in this city. And sometimes other city health center people come to Yokosuka and listen to my words, listen to my talk. And I was invited to some other cities or towns in Kanagawa Prefecture. And Kanagawa Prefectural government or prefectural officials one day saw me, attended my training, and he invited me to the prefectural health center training training class or something. So I was invited, and I was called to hold such gatekeeper training for the both Yokosuka City and also Kanagawa Prefecture. So it's not become the barrier because I'm a monk. They don't look at me as a, of course I wear.
You look like a monk.
Yes. But they know that they take my activities, activity side, not the priest side, but the activity side. I have long involved in the
so when you give these talks, you don't teach Zen? No,
but sometimes if it's a 2 hours training, 1 hour after 1 hour half past, I do some like Tai-chi, Dozen, Goku-zen.
And they're okay with
it? I sometimes do.
I see.
Or the 1 minute breathing and breathe out. Not the official Zen, not the ordinary Zen, but the very, very short essence of the Zen. Zazen or some Dozen, Goku Zen, Zen meditation through movement. I'm very small. I do. But nobody refuses.
Well, I think a couple of things that we're seeing in your work is the really big difference between the way a religious person from a stereotype, not just Buddhist monk, but any religious person tends to talk a lot about religion. But what we've seen from you is whether you're doing counseling or you're doing this work, you don't talk about religion. You're actually mostly listening. So for many people, that's a big shift. Like I went to see the religion person and they didn't talk to me about God. And they didn't talk to me about like Buddha, and they didn't talk to me. In fact, they didn't talk to me. I was able to talk to them. I was able to monku, right? I was able to complain. So I think this is a really big, because I think that's one of the big barriers for religious people being in mainstream society is if they show up and they're like, "Hi everyone, I'm religious master. Listen to me now, and I will tell you all these religious truths." People are like, "Goodbye, no thank you. I'm out of here."
Well, as you know, the Zen, especially Rinzai or the Soto too, we never say at the Dharma talk, other denomination, they said our founder say like this, our founder wrote like this. But maybe Soto sometimes, but not so.
They like to quote Dogen.
And Rinzai, we seldom, if ever, we quote the Rinzai words. Sometimes Zen word of course used, but we know not quote directly from the Buddha's words. We never say Buddha say this is this, or our founder said this is. We never say such word. but we teach them Buddha's words or the Rinzai word, we say, but in my word, Rinzai teaching in my word.
Right, exactly, exactly.
And actually, I involved in the daycare program.
Right.
Daycare program is the for making the daytime place for the suffering people who just discharged from the hospital, mental hospitals.
From the mental hospital.
Before going back to school or before going back to work.
Right.
Certain month or certain period, sometimes a few years,
Right.
Attending such programs.
Right.
And one of the program is the Zen.
Right.
Mainly I teach at the City Hall, City
Right.
Health Center.
Right.
But once or twice a year, came to this temple and do zazen and dozen here.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't say Buddha say this way, or Rinzai say, but the temple already shown.
Right.
No need to say who say this word. What books wrote this one? I never say. But sitting Zen in my word is based on Rinzai. That's enough. And daycare program, even the new age people comes. I mean the family, the person who are the family member of the new age religious groups. That religious groups cannot enter the Buddha hall or the temple. Such.
Right.
But oh, are you okay? You came here. Yes. My father and mother say it's okay. Mr. Fujio's place is okay.
So families that belong to kind of some of these new age religions that are like, don't go anywhere else. We only have the real truth.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes they'll come here because they don't see it as a threat to their religion.
They are the very eager believer of the new age, but they love, at the same time, they love their child.
Right.
So they want the child to recover.
Right.
So
they allow them to come here.
They allow her to my place, him to come to my place.
When I was working on learning about chaplaincy, we kind of learned that, like, many religious teachers or people who become religious professionals, they go to religious training. So they get all these ideas. They learn everything in the books and everything. And then the teachings are all up here. And then sometimes they just talk from here. And so sometimes the people call them a parrot, it's just this, right? They're just repeating the words they heard. But then to become a kind of a chaplain, the teaching have to come down into your heart. And then when it's in your heart, you can speak about it without speaking about it directly. You can talk about a cup of tea and something. But so I thought that was quite interesting. And then I met, there's this well-known American Zen monk, Koshin Ellison in New York. And they train Zen chaplains to work in the hospitals. And he's like, oh, but then from the heart, it has to come down into the hara.
I see.
And I was like, oh, yes, because it needs, you also need to, as you said, tune from your hara, from your tanden. And if it's not there, then maybe still you don't have the, like you said, it's 30% words or less, and it's 70% feeling.
Our communication is the words is very low percentage.
Right.
Like atmosphere or attitude or body language or face impression or eyes impression or total communication.
Right. So if you want to come to Japan and connect with Japanese people, remember that it's 70% nonverbal. So work on meditating, getting your energy here, and you'll be able to tune yourself to Japanese people and understand them better.
Yeah, this point is also Japanese people suffering.
Right.
If we go overseas, this rule is not adopted in the States. Am I correct?
Well, not in a lot of places. Go to India too. India, they're talking all the time and they're using words and words and words.
We try to make understand with total communication ways, not only verb. So that's why we are frustrated.
But I think we need both, because sometimes we need words.
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes we need
Yeah,
words.
I know.
That's why I think Dogen is so incredible, because Dogen taught us we can take the words and we can empty them out and we can reconstruct them. And we can use them in different ways, like as a like a lot of thought or word thought, especially Western thought, is very linear. A, B, C, D, E. But Dogen taught us that maybe it's A, Z, F, M, Q, so that we come to the nonverbal through the verbal.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I think our time is up. It's been wonderful to talk to you as always.
Thank you very much.
A great pleasure to be here. And Reverend Fujio is a main person in our book. And I'll also be working on another book after this book on suicide prevention in Japan. And Reverend Fujio has his own chapter, which has even more detailed stuff. So thank you very much, Reverend.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us today.